June 1992. Western intelligence agencies share a problem they never expected. One of their most valuable sources, a Palestinian who's been feeding them intelligence on radical Islamic groups for years, is about to be murdered, not by terrorists, not by rival factions, but by an ally. The CIA sends urgent messages to Tel Aviv. French intelligence makes back-channel calls. Everyone knows what's coming, and no one can stop it. Because when Israel decides someone must die, geography doesn't matter. Alliances don't matter. And the fact that you've switched sides from war to peace, that might be exactly why they're coming for you. This is the paradox at the heart of Atef Bseiso's assassination. The moment he stopped being an enemy combatant and became a bridge to diplomatic solutions, he signed his own death warrant. Understanding why requires understanding something fundamental about how conflicts perpetuate themselves. Wars need enemies. Peace processes need partners, and sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is try to become the latter when powerful institutions need you to remain the former. Bseiso wasn't born to be a bridge between worlds. Born in Gaza in 1948, the same year Israel declared independence and hundreds of thousands of Palestinians became refugees, his early life followed the familiar trajectory of Palestinian displacement. Education became his escape route. He earned degrees, developed sophistication, learned to navigate both Arab and Western spaces with ease. By the 1970s, he'd become exactly what the PLO needed as it attempted to gain international legitimacy. Someone who could walk into a Western embassy without triggering immediate security alerts. Someone who understood how power actually worked in capitals like Paris and Washington. The path that made him valuable to the PLO also made him dangerous to Israel. Intelligence networks he helped build facilitated operations across Europe. Money flows he coordinated funded attacks that killed civilians. The Munich Olympics operation in 1972 became his original sin in Israeli eyes. The evidence connecting him was thin, circumstantial at best. But in the world of targeted assassinations, beyond reasonable doubt isn't the standard. Reasonable suspicion is enough. And once Mossad's revenge machine called Operation Wrath of God started rolling, Bseiso's name went onto the list in permanent ink. Yet he survived through the 1970s and 80s, while others on that list died in European hotel rooms and on Mediterranean beaches. Survival required more than luck. It demanded constant vigilance, varied routines, trusted security protocols. More importantly, it required being valuable enough alive that killing him created more problems than solutions. As long as Bseiso remained a straightforward enemy, a PLO operative planning operations against Israel, his execution was simply a matter of opportunity meeting operational capacity. Then, the world changed. The Cold War ended. The first Intifada in Palestinian territories demonstrated that military occupation had costs Israel couldn't sustain indefinitely. And critically, the PLO under Yasser Arafat began signaling willingness to negotiate. Not surrender, not capitulation, but actual negotiation recognizing Israel's existence in exchange for Palestinian autonomy. This created space for figures like Bseiso to reinvent themselves, from operatives to intermediaries, from enemies to potential partners. Western intelligence services needed exactly what Bseiso could provide: direct access to PLO leadership with credibility that came from years in the struggle, sophistication to understand complex security arrangements, and crucially, motivation to prevent radical Islamic groups from derailing peace processes that secular Palestinian nationalism might actually achieve. Hamas was emerging as a threat to both Israel and the PLO. Palestinian Islamic Jihad was conducting suicide bombings designed to sabotage diplomacy. Iranian influence in Palestinian territories was growing. Bseiso could provide intelligence on all of it. The CIA cultivated him carefully, not as an asset in the traditional sense, not someone they owned or controlled, but as a communication channel. Messages passed to Bseiso reached Arafat's inner circle. Information shared by Bseiso came from sources Western agencies couldn't access directly. The relationship was transactional, never fully trusting, but operationally valuable. French intelligence developed similar connections. German services received tips that helped them prevent attacks on their territory. For Bseiso, this transformation made strategic sense. Armed struggle had achieved international attention for the Palestinian cause, but not international respect. Hijackings and bombings had brought pressure, but not legitimacy. If Palestinians wanted statehood, they needed to look like responsible partners for peace, not perpetual guerrillas. Working with Western intelligence, preventing attacks by extremists who threatened the peace process, positioned the PLO as the reasonable voice Palestinians could negotiate with. Israeli intelligence watched this evolution with conflicted perspectives. Some recognized the value. A PLO that constrained Hamas and Islamic Jihad served Israeli interests. Communication channels to Arafat that could diffuse tensions before they exploded into violence had operational utility. And if Palestinian moderates could be strengthened against rejectionist factions, that created strategic opportunities for actual conflict resolution. But others saw betrayal and danger. Bseiso's growing Western connections threatened to legitimize the PLO internationally. His intelligence sharing made him look like a responsible security partner rather than a terrorist. His sophistication and English fluency meant he could present the Palestinian narrative effectively to audiences that mattered. Every handshake with CIA officers, every meeting with French intelligence moved the PLO closer to international acceptance, and that was unacceptable to those who believed any recognition of Palestinian nationalism threatened Israel's existence. The internal Mossad debate intensified as the Oslo Accords took shape in 1991 and 1992. Secret negotiations between Israeli and PLO representatives were producing a framework for Palestinian autonomy, mutual recognition, and phased implementation of a peace agreement. For those committed to the process, figures like Bseiso represented necessary evil, former enemies who could help manage the transition. For those opposed, they represented existential threats, legitimized terrorists who would use peace as cover for eventual destruction of Israel. When Shabtai Shavit became Mossad director in 1989, he brought clear priorities. Palestinian legitimization was a strategic threat requiring aggressive response. The peace process created dangerous precedents that might force territorial concessions and security arrangements Israel couldn't accept. And operatives like Bseiso, who facilitated this process, were not bridges to peace, but threats wrapped in diplomatic clothing. Under Shavit's leadership, Bseiso's name went back onto the active target list. The decision bypassed the usual process of building an operational case through demonstrated continuing threats. Bseiso hadn't personally planned attacks recently. His current activities focused on liaison work, not militant operations. But the assessment concluded that his influence on legitimizing the PLO and facilitating peace negotiations made him strategically more dangerous than when he'd been a pure operative. This represents a critical shift in targeting philosophy, from eliminating active threats to eliminating people whose existence complicated preferred strategic outcomes. Finding him required betrayal. Adnan Yassin, a PLO member whose wife faced serious medical problems requiring expensive treatment, became the entry point. Israeli intelligence offered money and access to Israeli hospitals. The price was information. Detailed intelligence on Bseiso's movements, his security arrangements, his schedule. Yassin provided everything, not because he hated Bseiso, but because desperation creates vulnerability. And intelligence services are experts at exploiting it. The intelligence revealed Bseiso planned to travel to Paris in early June 1992. The operational parameters were established quickly. Paris offered advantages, large international city where foreign operatives could operate without excessive attention, multiple escape routes, and while French security was professional, they weren't expecting an Israeli hit on their territory. The decision went ahead despite knowing it would trigger diplomatic crisis. The calculation held that Bseiso's elimination was worth the diplomatic cost. The team deployed from Mossad's Caesarea unit. These aren't ordinary intelligence officers, but specialized operatives trained specifically for lethal operations abroad. Selection emphasizes psychological suitability for violence, ability to maintain operational cover under stress, and capacity to execute precisely then extract successfully. They arrived in Paris separately, using tourist and business covers, establishing themselves before the operation began. Surveillance started the moment Bseiso reached Paris. Every movement logged, every meeting observed. The pattern revealed vulnerability. He traveled without heavy security, believing his work with Western intelligence provided protection. That confidence was his fatal mistake. On June 8th, after dinner with Lebanese friends, he returned to his hotel around 10:30 p.m. The operational window opened. Two operatives positioned themselves near Bseiso's parked car. Not hiding, not obviously suspicious, just two people who happened to be there. Professional surveillance teaches that the best cover is looking like you belong. When Bseiso bent to unlock his car door, they moved with practiced coordination. One grabbed him, pinning him against the vehicle's hood. The other produced a Beretta .22 caliber pistol with suppressor and fired twice into his head at point-blank range. The entire sequence consumed less than 10 seconds. The weapon choice was deliberate. .22 caliber rounds are small, subsonic when suppressed, producing minimal noise. Perfect for urban assassinations, where attracting immediate attention means operational failure. The shots sounded like harsh coughs, easily mistaken for other urban sounds. Bseiso died before his brain could process what was happening. No dramatic confrontation, no final words, just professional termination executed with mechanical efficiency. The killers walked away at normal pace. Running attracts attention. Calm departure suggests you have every right to be there. They reached their extraction vehicle, drove out of Paris at normal speed, and left France entirely within hours. By the time French police began serious investigation the next morning, the operational team had scattered across Europe using false documentation that would lead to dead ends. The aftermath proved diplomatically catastrophic in expected ways. France protested the sovereignty violation loudly. The CIA expressed fury at Israel, sabotaging a productive intelligence source. Even some Israeli officials questioned whether the diplomatic cost justified the operation, but Mossad leadership considered it successful. Target eliminated, team extracted safely. Message sent to others who might follow Bseiso's path from armed resistance to diplomatic bridge building. The investigation went nowhere predictable. Witnesses provided vague descriptions. Forensic evidence pointed to professional execution, but offered no concrete leads. The weapons were never recovered. False passports led nowhere. Within months, active investigation ended. Within years, the file gathered dust. Everyone understood who conducted the operation. No one could prove it in ways that mattered legally or diplomatically. What did Bseiso's death accomplish strategically? In immediate tactical terms, it removed one skilled operative from PLO intelligence networks. But strategically, the assessment is far more ambiguous. The PLO didn't collapse. The peace process continued, producing the Oslo Accords in 1993. Arafat and Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin shook hands at the White House. The framework Bseiso had helped facilitate through his bridge building moved forward despite his absence. The operation did send messages, though. To Palestinians considering cooperation with Western intelligence, it demonstrated risks that protective relationships with CIA or French services couldn't eliminate. To Israeli hardliners, it showed commitment to preventing PLO legitimization regardless of diplomatic costs. And to the world, it reinforced that sovereign territory means little when powerful states decide elimination serves vital interests. 20 years later, the Middle East peace process lies in ruins. Oslo produced temporary frameworks that collapsed under the weight of continued violence and failed implementation. The Palestinians' Bseiso represented fractured between Fatah and Hamas. Israel elected governments explicitly opposed to territorial concessions. The violence continues, the cycle perpetuates, and the bridge builders remain rare and endangered. Perhaps that's the darkest lesson. In conflicts sustained by institutional interests, military-industrial complexes, and ideological commitments, the most dangerous people aren't the warriors, but the diplomats. Warriors justify continued conflict, diplomats threaten to resolve it, and resolution threatens everyone whose power depends on permanent emergency. Bseiso died not because he made war effectively, but because he might have helped end it. And for those invested in conflict's continuation, that made him intolerable. The two operatives who killed him that June night vanished back into Israeli intelligence apparatus. Their names remain unknown, their identities protected. They executed orders from above, following authorization chains that transformed murder into bureaucratic process. Years later, they probably remember the operation as just another file, another target, another successful extraction. The moral weight, if they carry any, remains private. What should we make of this? That targeted assassinations work? That they fail? That they're justified or monstrous? The answer depends entirely on whether you believe conflicts are resolved through elimination of enemies or through finding paths to coexistence. Bseiso's death didn't end Palestinian resistance. It didn't secure Israeli safety. It simply removed one complicated human who had tried to navigate between two impossible positions. And in doing so, it demonstrated something darker than any individual death. That the machinery of perpetual conflict grinds forward without pause, eliminating not just enemies but anyone who might help it stop.